Welcome to all of my students. Today we will be dealing some lectures regarding the subject strength of materials. So today the topic which we will be seeing will be deal with the bending of beams. So in strength of material, it's an very important topic. You should know how to draw bending moment diagrams and shear force diagrams when you analyze any cases of beam, analysis of beam, regarding analysis of beam. So in this series we'll deal with first what is a beam and what are the forces like external loads acting on it or internal forces generated due to the application of external loads, how to compute those forces and calculate the loads, and how to, after calculating all the reactions, forces, moments, how to graphically show them using some diagrams. So we'll see what are the types of beams according to their support conditions. Then we will see the types of loadings. Then after knowing the support conditions and the loads applied on a beam, we will be able to calculate the moment and shear force induced in the beams due to the externally applied loads. And also we will see what is a bending moment, how it is caused, what is shear force, how shear force is induced in a beam. Then we will see what is bending moment diagram, what is an shear force diagram. Then after understanding all the concepts, we will go for some solved numerical problems in which you will clearly understand the concept of how to apply a concept after computing all the necessary loads and reactions. So this is our learning objectives of today's lecture. Okay, let's start with what is a beam. So beams are used in almost every field of engineering, whether it is civil engineering, mechanical engineering, spacecraft, like the body which is spacecraft body which is been assembled. You will see there are a lot of components, vertical components, horizontal components, inclined components. So beam is used, we can say, in almost every objects. So what beam actually means? So when you see when a load is applied, we can differentiate according to the axis on which the load is applied, like it is either applied in the x-axis, or say it is applied in y-axis, or maybe there is some inclined forces or inclined loads applied to a particular member. So what the main objective when we design any structure or specifically any components which makes a structure, we need to effectively transfer those loads along the structure to the foundation or to the earth. So the structure, the intended purpose for which the structure is built, so that should also be satisfied, whether it's like a residential building or some gantry girders, deck slab. So in each cases you will see the loads which are coming either it will come perpendicular or parallel, perpendicular or it is applied along the axis. So, columns are those structure which vertically transfer the loads coming on it, like we can say along its axis, longitudinal axis. But what are beams? Beams are the forces, beams are the elements, which are designed to carry the transverse loads. Transverse loads means like you can see, I will draw a beam. Suppose this is a beam, maybe we will provide some supports to it. So, if you see, this is the neutral axis. So, when the forces, it will act perpendicular to the longitudinal axis. Means you will see it is perpendicular. Means when you see from the top face of the beam, when you view it from above, you will see an area, top area like this of the beam. So, we can, like when we practically take some examples, like in a residential house, the walls, the main walls, the primary walls, the secondary walls or the partition walls, you will see it is usually rested on the beam. Means the wall will be constructed on top of the beam. So, what the beam will do? The beam again it will transfers these forces, these loadings to the column. The column will be here down, it means this column. So, the columns. So, from here what we are we know that the forces, the beam, it takes along its transverse direction. Means after loading, the beam will deflect. So, this deflection, like as engineers we should know, like example, how much is the deflection, like say it is 8 mm or 10 mm. So, from how we will know how much deflection will be caused in the beams? For that, first we have to know what are the forces which the beam will carry, like if there is a brick wall on top of it, or there is any like a point load or machinery or some object is kept on some corner of a beam, like maybe some object is kept here, heavy object is kept here. So, you will see when a single object is kept, it will act at a point, the force intensity it will act at a point, compared to the wall which you have seen, which will act along the whole length of the beam, because the wall is built over the length of the beam. In that case, we will say that load is a UDL, which is represented by like this, or it is also represented by like this, uniformly distributed load on top of a beam. This is diagrammatically it is represented like this. Okay. A beam is a structural member that is reasonably long compared to its lateral dimensions. When supported at one or more points and subjected to forces causes bending of the member in an axial plane is called a beam. So, lateral dimension is this dimension. This is the lateral dimension, and the face of the beam which you are viewing, it's its longitudinal dimension. Longitudinal face or longitudinal dimension. So, how the load is been applied on the beam? It is designed to carry the beam in flexure. So, beam when it is supported in one end, we call it as a cantilever beam. It is called as a cantilever beam. When it is simply supported, or when it is simply, we can say it is resting on two supports, we can say it is a simply supported beam. Example, a simple slab is resting on the beam and the column support is either a concrete column or a brick wall. So, we can say that beam is just supported by the column or the brick wall built on below as a column. Okay. So, next we will see the supports which are given for the beam and its types. So, we can say there are mainly three types of supports which we use. The first is the simply supported or roller support. The second is pinned support or hinged support. The third support is a fixed support or rigid support. First, we will see what is a simply supported, what a simple support is. It is the simplest form of support. The reaction is normal to the plane of the roller or the support. A beam resting on a wall is a simply supported case. So, when we say the beam is simply supported, it means one end it can have a roller support, the other end can be a pinned or a hinge support, which is denoted like this, pinned or a hinge support. Like you can ask why it cannot both be a hinged or both be a roller support, because if you imagine both, if being a roller support, the beam will not be in stable condition, it will be not be in equilibrium, because as the load is applied it will give displacements. So, it is not a stable one. So, to make a simply supported condition, we usually use a roller support and a hinge support. So, here it is shown a beam is there and it's rested on wall. So this is a simply supported case. The next is a pinned support or a hinged support. After discussing the types, I will show you some practical structures in which we can differentiate the supports based on the conditions it applies. Like we can see in roller support, when you draw the reaction forces, so it is here you can see the beam is shown, then there is a arrow indicating the vertical reaction RA. So first we have to know what is a reaction. Reaction will be caused when we can simply say there is a resistance. There is a resistance to displacement or motion. So that will yield what? That will yield or that will give reaction. So when you see roller support is giving a vertical reaction, it means the beam here shown can take movements, it can take movement is allowed, and since it is a roller support, the horizontal forces will not be resisted. Means if there is any force along its longitudinal axis, the beam will displace, the beam will yield. So when there is no resistance to the horizontal force, means there will be no reaction. So you can see there is no movement and there is no horizontal reaction. Only vertical reaction is shown, means this support will not yield vertically. Okay, that means it will have only one reaction, that is vertical reaction. So the next support is a pinned support or a hinge support. So what is pinned or a hinge support? It is one type of support in which the beam can rotate about the hinge. Hinge is this point where it is connected. Like you can see any truss element where it is connected from the support. So that is a hinge point. Like you can the good example for a hinge is a door hinge. The hinge which is used in doors to connect with the frame. So there you can see when you open a door, the door is there, it is connected by hinge to the frame. So when you push or when you try to open the door, you can see the door moves, it can move, means there is no resistance towards movement, towards rotation in short. So you can see here there is no movement shown. But you can see there is a horizontal reaction and a vertical reaction shown. It means the beam will not yield in when a horizontal force is applied and a vertical force is applied. Only movement is allowed in this type of connection. Okay, next we will see a fixed or a rigid support. So this type of support prevents the beam not only from rotation but also from linear movement. The beam embedded in a wall is a simple example of a fixed beam. The fixed beam is also called as encasted beam. Encasted beam means fixed beam. Encasted. So only this support is also called as encasted support. Encasted means which is fixed or which is embedded in a, like if this beam is embedded in the wall, so this is a fixed support. Fixed support means you will see it will not allow any movement, it will not allow any vertical movement or force, and also it will not have any displacement along its horizontal axis. Means when you draw the BMD of like fixed beams, you will see the movement at the support is 0, means it will not yield at the support. Means all these three components, that is movement, vertical reaction, horizontal reaction, all three components are not allowed. Okay, now we can see the types of beams. So we can see here this is a simply supported beam. It can be represented in problems either by two arrows which indicates the support and the support reactions caused due to the support, or it can be shown with one inch supported and another one roller support when it is supported on the two ends. And when the beam is supported in only one end, then we can say that beam as a cantilever beam. So here you can see the beam is supported from only one support, the other end of the beam is free. It means it is only supported in one end, it is a cantilever. The next is an overhanging beam. So in overhanging beam, what is an overhang? Overhang means that part of the beam which is extended from the support. Like in this single overhang, we can see there are two supports, first and second, and this part of the beam is extending from the support, it is hanging. So we can, since there is only one hanging from only one side, it is called as a single overhang. So when analyzing this type of cases, you can simply break the problem into two parts for doing simple analysis. You can analyze this part of beam as a simply supported beam and this part of the beam as a cantilever beam. And when on the case of double overhang, you will see both ends of the beam is extended from the supports. So it is having two overhangs, so it is a double overhang. Now what is a propped cantilever? In propped cantilever, the difference between cantilever and propped cantilever, from the diagram you can see that cantilever is only supported from one end, this end, the other end is free. Suppose if you give a support on the free end, the support can be anywhere regarding its distance, it can be anywhere, it can be also, it can be here, you can place the support anywhere. So, when this type of condition arises, then this beam we call it as a propped cantilever, in which the free end is supported along its distance in any distance from the support, one support is provided. So, you will see this part is a propped, propped means extended. So, here you can see there is vertical reaction, there is horizontal reaction, and there is movement applied. Since this support is a fixed support, you can see all the three conditions. So, these conditions are nothing but we can call it as the equilibrium conditions. These conditions are nothing but what they are, equilibrium conditions. Means sum of the vertical forces means when you sum up all the vertical forces or vertical reactions and forces, when you add up all these forces which are acting vertically, the sum will be equal to 0. That it means summation of all vertical forces is 0. Means this indicates that the beam is in equilibrium. Means when a beam is resting and if there is the beam is still at rest after loading, means it is in equilibrium. So, when the sum of vertical forces is 0, sum of horizontal forces acting, when you add up those horizontal forces and the sum is 0, and the moments arised due to all these forces acting on the beam is 0, means the beam is said to be in equilibrium condition. So, depending on the equilibrium condition, we can say the structure usually can be classified into two types, that is determinate structure and indeterminate structure. What is determinate structure and indeterminate structure? Means statically determinate structure are those structures to find the reactions and the movements. If these three conditions are enough or is enough or to find the reactions and movements in the given problem, means that structure we can say it as a statically determinate structures. What do you mean by that? When the number of unknowns, like here you can see there is one reaction here. So, this is 1, the movement is second, the vertical is third and the horizontal is fourth. If we do not know any values of these forces and moments, so how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So, here there are 4 unknowns and the equilibrium conditions are 3. So, when the number of unknowns exceeds the equilibrium conditions and it is insufficient to find all the forces and moments in the given problem, then that structure is said as statically indeterminate structure. So, next we will see what is a continuous beam. A continuous beam, we can say, when the beam is supported at one support, we say it as cantilever. When the beam is supported or simply supported, it is 2. And when the number of support increases more than 2, it can be 3 or 4, then this beam, the supports are continuous. So, this beam we will say it is a continuous beam. Like here you can see RA, RB, RC, RD, these are the supports. There are more than 2 supports. So, this beam is a continuous beam. So, like we discussed, if you see here, if you look here in the fixed beam condition, you will see there are 2 vertical reactions VA, VB. There are 2 movements MA, MB, MA acting anti-clockwise, sorry, MA acting in clockwise direction and MB acting in anti-clockwise direction, and there are 2 horizontal reactions HA and HP. So, there are, we can say, this side 3, this side 3, means here there are 6 unknowns. How many unknowns are there? Here we are 6 unknowns, and the equilibrium conditions, we have 3 equilibrium conditions. We have 3 equilibrium conditions. So, these 3 conditions are not enough to find the 6 unknowns. So, fixed beams is, we can say, it will be analyzed as a statically indeterminate structure. I think now you are clear what is a determinate and indeterminate structure. Okay, now we will see the types of loading which a beam faces. The load, when it acts at a point, or we can say, you can say maybe there is a floor, okay. In that floor maybe a heavy object is placed somewhere. So, compared to that area of the floor, the area occupied by the heavy object is negligible, is very small. So, this weight of the object which induces a load on the floor, we can say that we can take as a point load, that is a point load on the floor. So, same way the point loads on a beam means when the object comes in contact with the beam in a single point, So, that will induce a concentrated load, that is a point load. Example, practical example, we can see if there is a vehicle. So, the wheels of the vehicle when it is travels on a surface, road surface or in a flat surface, you can see the whole weight of the vehicle is transferred to the road, through its tires. So, the contact area of the tire, you can see it is at a single point with the road. So, these conditions, the loading classes used in IRC, we can see some diagrams like this, class A, class BB. So, these are the example of point loads. So, these point loads can be perpendicular to the beam, right, or it can be inclined by an angle of theta. So, when a case of point load, inclined point load arises, how you will solve in that case is simple. You have to do the resolution of the force. You have to do the resolution of the force. Means you have to split the force in two components, sine theta component and cos theta components, means horizontal and perpendicular components. So, then it will be easy for the analysis. The next load is a uniformly distributed load. In most of the books, the uniformly distributed load is denoted in short form as UDL, uniformly distributed load. So, by the name suggest, uniformly distributed load means it is distributed on the beam with a uniform intensity, with a constant intensity. Example like this is a support, this is a beam. You can say you have built a brick wall on top of the beam. So, this is a brick wall. So, when you see the contact area on top of the beam where the wall is built, you will see this weight, the weight of the wall is uniformly distributed over an area, So, if you know the density of the material of which the wall is made, that is, we can say the unit weight of the material. If you know the unit weight of the material and if you know the length or the span, then you can easily know the intensity of the load in per meter condition. We will see how a UDL can be converted into a point load, right. If you want to convert a UDL to simplify the problem to a point load, so the intensity given or the value of UDL given, like example 5 Newton per meter, means in any section of the any part of the UDL, you will have 5 Newton per meter intensity, that it denotes the value of the UDL. An example, this span is maybe 3 meter, then when you convert it to point load, you have to always remember that the point load will always act at the CG of the UDL acting, means in short half of the center distance of the span. where the UDL is acting, means CG, means 3 meter. So, half will be 1.5 meter, 1.5 meter from here and 1.5 meter from here. It will act at the center. And what will be the value of the point load? That will be the load multiplied by its distance, means it will be 15 Newton. 5 3 is a 15. So, after converting the UDL to a point load, the value of point load will be 15. 5 into span is 3 meter, it will be 15 Newton. .5 meter, 1.5 meter. So, like this way, in problems you can simplify UDL to a point load, so that the calculation will be easy. So, the load is, it is diagrammatically represented like this. This is the UDL acting throughout the length. And in this case you can see the UDL is acting only at a particular length, So, when in case, what if this load which is acting is not uniform? So, it is a non-uniform load. So, it can be varying, like this is, it varies, like this is also load, is also we can say it as a non-uniform load, like any uneven object, or there are some complex arrangements of materials. So, it will give a varying load at different places. So, that will be a non-uniform type of load. Next is a couple or moment. Okay. So, you can see a couple is defined as the action of two parallel equal and opposite forces. You can see this force applied and this force applied is parallel to each other. They are parallel, they are equal, and they are opposite. This force is moved towards the right, this force is moving towards the left. So, what will happen at the point of their intersection? It will cause a rotation, means this element will start turning from its axis, it will start rotating like this. So, the type of force induced at the junction is called as a couple. So, in a beam, the couple will act like, due to some loads, if movement is induced at a particular point, okay, due to some loads, if movement is induced only at a particular point, means that will cause a rotation in at that point. So, that is also a couple. So, next we will see what is a bending moment and what is shear force. So how we'll calculate the bending moment? So first you have to understand what is a bending moment. So by the name, some movement caused due to bending. But how to understand practically? Like we'll take the same door of example of the door. If you try to open the door from the far edge, means if you push the door from the edge, the right corner of the edge, you will need less force to open the door. So as you move towards the joint from where the door is hinged, you will see you will require more force to open the door. So what it means? It means when you apply less force to open the door, it is easily opened, means the movement is more when you require less force to open the door. And for the edge condition, when you apply force here, you will require a very large force, very large push to cause a less movement, means the door will open through a little distance. So movement from here you can easily see. So bending moment, it is usually calculated like if we want to calculate how much bending moment, arrives at this point. So how will you calculate at this point? It is nothing but the load applied multiplied by its lever arm distance. This is its lever arm distance. So when if this distance is x, so movement about the joint is given by P times x. So this will give in the bending moment at this particular joint. This lever arm distance you can also imagine of a seesaw. In garden, if you have visited gardens, you will see there is a seesaw and two people sit in the two edges of this beam, we can say this beam. So if you see, lifting the other person is easy because it is only supported at one point, at this pivoted joint. So the force applied, you can see here the moment when the force is multiplied by the distance, the value will increase. So automatically you will need less force if the distance is more. If the distance is greater, means you will need less force to lift this person. So this way we can understand how a movement acts. Okay. Next we will see what is a shear force. So in shear force, when you take a beam, this is a support, this is simply supported beam, supported at points A and B. Assume some point loads acting on top of the beam. So, when you support, when you find out the reaction at A support, that is R A, and the reaction at B support, that is R B, assume give this some values like 5 Newton, 10 Newton. So, when you sum up all the vertical forces and reactions which are acting perpendicular to the longitudinal axis, that is we say the vertical direction, the sum will be the first condition of static equilibrium, summation of all vertical forces is 0. So, this forces and reaction will cause some implications on the part of the beam where it is acting. Like this case, you can see the reaction R A is acting upwards, and this 5 Newton load is acting downwards. So, what is happening in this cross section of the beam? This opposite forces will cause the beam to crack from the center. The best example we can see is of a chalk. Like if you take a chalk, hold it from one end and you just apply a load here, you will see this chalk will break, right. So, this chalk, writing chalk, since you know it is a brittle material, it will crack from here, it will break into two parts. So, this way the shear acts, it tends to cut the beam across its section. So, due to different reactions and different loads, the intensity of the shear force throughout the cross section of the beam will be not similar. It will differ from place to place depending on the intensity of the loads and reactions. So, to graphically show this variations of intensity of forces, of vertical forces, that is the shear force, we usually draw a diagram which is called as shear force diagram. So, here we will see 4.4 bending moment and shear force. Bending moment at section is defined as the algebraic sum of the moments about the section of all the forces including the reactions. It means like when you take the section and due to the loads and reactions, you will have different moments due to different loads. If you see this A point, due to this 5 Newton load, you will have different moment, and due to this 10 Newton load, you will have different intensity of moment. So, you can see when you sum up all these moments, it will give the bending moment. So, bending moment of a section is defined as the algebraic sum of the moments including the reactions either to the right or to the left of the beam. So, you can see since the bending moment is the force into the perpendicular distance, we can see the unit is force, that is Newton, and the distance is meter. Like here it can be kilonewton or meter. So, the shear force is algebraic sum of all the forces, we can see all the forces and the reactions acting along the section, that is means normal to the axis. Normal to the axis means perpendicular to the axis either to the right or left of the section. So, it is only a force. So, the unit is Newton or kilonewton. Next, I will show you some real world practical examples. Like here, this is the pic of a testing of beam. The two end supports are shown. Like when the beam is simply supported, like we have seen, one end is roller support and another end is pinned support. So, these two conditions, the two ends of the beam supported, here it is shown. You can see here a roller support, this is a roller, you can see this is the plate, this is the pedestal plate, and a roller is placed on top of it, there is a plate and the beam is loaded, right. So, this support is a roller support, and the other end you will see this as a pin or hinge support. Here you can see there is a triangle shaped, metal on top of which the beam is loaded. So, this is the pin support or hinge support. Next we will see a cantilever beam, usually used in parking lots. Here you can see here you can see the column, and there you can see the beam which is supported in only this joint, the other joint is a free support. So, this beam will act as a cantilever beam. You can see this support, pinned or hinge support. This is of a large bridge structure. So, in the bridge structure where this is the embankment area, you can clearly see it is the embankment area where it is like this hinged from the support, right. This is same like the hinge support, you can see here. This is also a hinge support. You can see the connection details here. You can see there is a pin which connects this element with this element, this plate. It is connected through the pin. You can see the pin here. It is connecting this element with the base plate. This is also a hinge support. There are different structures. You can see it is connecting the horizontal and the inclined member here. Pinned or hinge support. Next, in many theory we have seen internal hinges. Internal hinges are induced to willfully cause a weak point or a bending point on a beam. The internal hinges are shown like this, internal hinges. So, in practical case, the internal hinges are shown like this. You see, this is an internal hinge. You can see here there is gap and there is gap, means this can move and adjust itself, it can rotate. So, this is an internal hinge. in a deck section. Like where you want one deck section to be lifted, so there you can provide internal hinges. There is one picture which shows the type of supports and the reactions. You can see here there is a that is fixed end support. As you know, fixed end support, movement and the forces along vertical and horizontal direction are restrained. All the three forces are restrained. In pin support, you can see movement is allowed. Okay, like this is a pin support, so it can move. The movement is allowed, but no horizontal and vertical displacements are allowed. So no vertical and horizontal displacements are allowed. So next is roller support. Roller support, vertical movement is restrained. You can see in the image here in the right bottom, this is a roller support. It is, the support is placed on the rollers. So this, like usually it is placed in highway decks, because due to the moving vehicles, it will cause some impact loads. So it will cause some vibrations, and there will be to and fro movements horizontally. So what this roller support will do, it will absorb those forces. So the foundation, the forces will be counteracted by the rollers. In nowadays we call them as dampers. Dampers are nowadays used. It is placed where the column pier and the deck slab joints connects. There the dampers are usually placed. Dampers. Link supports are those supports which will restrain the movement along a inclined direction. Along the way it is placed, it will restrain movement in that direction. Rocker support is similar to roller support. Roller support and rocker support are similar. You can see a rocker support here. This is an rocker support. You see this bottom is curved like this, so it will allow movements. It can allow movements to and fro. You can see the roller support is denoted like this or like this. In practical structure you can see how it is placed. Roller support. This is also roller support. It's clearly seen here. You can see it's resting to the base plate, the roller, and the other leg is placed here. So it can allow horizontal movements. So this is a shear force. So in shear force, you have to know when there will be a positive shear force and when we have to take a negative shear force. Example, like when you take a beam and when you cut the section from here and you analyze these reactions, you are cutting the section from here, and if you are taking the left side of the section, this is the left side of the section and this is the right side of the section. So, when on the left side of the section, if the reaction is acting upwards, when in the reaction is acting upwards, then it will be taken as a positive shear force. It will be taken as positive shear force. And when that reaction is acting downwards to the left of the section, the cut through section, then it will be taken as a negative shear force. So, this is the sign convention used for the shear force. From next class onwards, we will look into bending moment, shear force, the sign conventions, and we will see some solved examples.